Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our college application question and answer, where your local high school graduates answer your college application questions. Please note that this session will be recorded.
Firstly, we would like to thank our sponsors, Tidewater Chinese School and the Organization of Chinese Americans Eastern Virginia chapter. It was with their help that this event was possible.
We would also like to welcome you to an opportunity to learn about Chinese language and culture from Tidewater Chinese School, a nonprofit organization that teaches students about Chinese language and culture. Fall registration will begin soon. The cost is $150 per student, and there will be a $20 discount for earliest individuals.
Now let's welcome our panelists. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, such as what you're majoring in and what college you will be attending.
I guess I can go first. So, hey guys, my name is Kai. I just graduated from Norfolk Academy this year, and this fall I'm enrolling in the University of Pennsylvania as a systems engineer, which is kind of like data science and analytics.
I'll go next. Hi guys, I'm Michael Tu. I will be attending Brown University next year studying computer science, and I recently graduated from Princeton High School in Virginia Beach from the IB program. I'll be getting my IB diploma in December of 2022. Woohoo!
Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan. I just graduated from Princess Anne High School. I will be majoring in computer science at Johns Hopkins University. And like Michael, I will also be getting my IP diploma soon.
Hi, my name is Rose Zhang. I also graduated from Princeton High School, and I'll also be getting my IP diploma in December. And I'm going to be studying the Computer Science plus Music combined program at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
Hi, my name's Alan. I also graduated from Princess Anne, and I'm also going to be getting my IB diploma later this year. I will be studying biomedical engineering at the University of Virginia this fall.
Hi, I'm Jason. I also just graduated from Princess Anne High School. I'll be studying chemical engineering at UC Berkeley, and I'll also be getting my IB diploma later this year.
Great. All audience questions will be taken at the end. So, how did you start writing your college essays, and what is one piece of advice for rising seniors?
I guess I can go first again. So really the way I started approaching my college essays is that around August, I kind of thought back to kind of some of the activities that I had done and stuff that I was going to list on my college Common App extracurricular list, and kind of looked for within those activities to look for like really like reflective and like reflective moments that I had within those activities, and kind of just like jot them down in like a bulleted list. And then after that, I kind of just like try to get some words on paper, and then I just kind of like molded my essays from there. And my one piece of advice for rising seniors is actually related to the essay portion. So I would say that like, I know like on like YouTube videos and stuff, they're like people have like the like really like incredibly well-written essays, and like sometimes when you watch those like college reactions videos, someone gets in like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, like the entire Ivy list, and then like they read out their bomb essay, it might make you feel like the essay process is a little daunting, and it might make you feel a little bit inadequate. And I would say like that's like probably what top 0.5% of people like submitting their college essays to college. And I would say like instead of trying to like make your essays perfect, instead and like stressing really hard about that, I would really just stress maybe trying to make your essays more on the understandable side, because just the reality is what like for most people the longest essay you're going to write is like 650 words, and the admissions officer is only going to take like maybe 5 minutes at most looking at your essay. So it's much better to have like your point more easily understood or comprehended. There you go, comprehended by them in those 5 minutes versus like you writing like Shakespearean, like the most like incredible prose ever, but they just don't understand it. And then just like getting your point across. I guess my point is getting your point across easily is probably the one thing you should focus about. And like just like the fact of the matter is like your essays, it's really not that deep, guys. Like at the end of the day, your essays are not what's going to get you into college. Is only just a part of like the college application process as a whole. So I wouldn't stress out too much about it.
I'd like to branch off of what Kai said. You know, the admissions officers, they're going to be reading hundreds of essays every single day. They're probably bored out of their minds. So one thing that when I was applying to colleges, one advice that I received from my upperclassmen was that always write a really interesting hook, make them want to read your essay. And then for the content itself, I first started like brainstorming possible topics that I could write about. I always chose something that I would enjoy writing because I don't want to sit hours writing about something I didn't really care about, right? And then another thing is like a lot of people talk about wow factor. So that could either be something that's really unique to you, something that like not that many other people have done. For example, my Common App essay, I talked about the challenges I faced when I pursued voice acting, because I know not everyone is going to be doing voice acting. And then for college specific essays, where I wanted to talk more about my major, I would talk about cyber patriot, like cybersecurity competitions that I did well in, and stuff that like to boost one thing that you're really good at. And so that's my tip. Like, one, either do something that not that many people have done before, or two, write about something you're really good at, and then have a good hook.
Thank
guess
you.
I'll go-
Now let's.
Okay. So yeah,
Sorry.
I do want to piggyback off of those to definitely make your essays unique and stand out. With that being said, don't make your essays cliche. That is like one-to-one things that colleges don't want to see. So definitely, yeah, make it stand out. Rather than making an essay, you could make it like a poem, a song, make it a whole list. There's a bunch of different ideas you could try to do. And I do also have a really helpful resource that maybe some other people might think it's helpful too. So I'll put it in chat as well. It's called Essays That Worked, and this is by Johns Hopkins University. So basically inside these, there's a list of like bunch of essays that basically got people into Johns Hopkins. So these are like the best out of the best essays. And so I would definitely recommend reading through them, see how others people made their essays, and you could kind of follow a similar structure. And yeah, if it worked for Johns Hopkins, then it might work for you getting to your own college too.
Thank you for that. So let's move on to the next question, which is, how did you all build your college list?
I'll take this question. So for this, I recommend essentially structuring your list around the idea of safeties, targets, and reaches. So for safeties, you want to pick one or two schools that you pretty much know you're going to get into. But even if you do get into them, you won't be completely like disappointed. So something that it's like something that you know you'll get into, but it's for security essentially. So in a worst case scenario, at least you'll be going somewhere where you know where you'll be able to at least like be productive. For targets, you want to essentially pick the colleges that you think you have a pretty good chance of getting into, a good chance, but not certain, which would be a safety. You want to pick, I think, for safeties, you might want to pick about 2. Targets, you can pick around 4-ish. And then reaches the colleges that are essentially like long shots, things like MIT or Harvard, the things that are like, it's like about a 10% chance to get in, or so and so. These you can pick essentially as many as you like. Although essentially the more you'll pick, the higher the chance that you'll get into one. Of course, but that means that you will also have to pay more attention to your essays and such, to writing all the essays. So for this, I picked around 8-ish for this one. A tool I highly recommend to get a good idea of what your target safeties and reaches should be is something I'll also put in the chat. It's called collegevine.com. Faith, can you pop open the, let's see, what the? Faith, for some reason, I can't message everyone in chat.
No problem. I'll put the link of College Vine.
Okay. Let's see. Can I share my screen?
We will arrange that. Can you try now?
Sure. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Okay. So this is I set up a quick list here for a demonstration. So it's really College Vine is really helpful here. So what you can do is you can, like, here in your profile, you can put in essentially your extracurricular profile, like let's say your biggest accomplishments, your unweighted GPA, things of that nature. The College Vine will compare it with the publicly available statistics for the students that were accepted, and based on that, they can give you a chancing for how likely it'll be that you'll get into a college. So, for example, we can see here that they then classify them into reaches, targets, and safeties based on how easy it is to get into the colleges. So if there's something like this, it makes it much easier and for you to get a really good idea around which colleges you should pick and how you should build your list.
So on the subject of building a college list, I do also want to talk about how to organize your college list once you did have to make one. So of course, you don't need to follow my exact strategy. You don't need to do what I do, and you don't have to follow the same format. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay, so basically, also just to be clear, these are not the exact colleges I applied to. I of course got rid of some and I added new ones. So yeah, but basically once you do have all of your colleges down, you should definitely make like a Google Sheets or an Excel document and just put all of your colleges down inside one column. So like University of Pittsburgh, Johns Hopkins, do it all of your colleges down. And you can make your list as long as you want, of course. You can make it just like 5 colleges. You can go for like 20 colleges. This is how many colleges you're applying to. And then I would also recommend making another column called application. So this is basically where you have to submit your application to. A bunch of colleges do use an application called Common App, but some colleges also use something called Coalition. And also, if you're applying to UC schools, they have their own application software. It's called like University of California. So, but definitely record all of that down so you know where to submit your application. And also, I would recommend making another column signifying whether you're applying early action, early decision. Some colleges have an early decision too, or regular decision. Also rolling, and also Ivy Leagues, they have something called restricted early action. And I'm sure we can explain all of this later in the Q&A if anyone has questions about what this is. And also for each of them, they also should have a deadline. So to find these deadlines, you can do a quick Google search that should tell you when these applications are due, or you can go to the official website of your college and it should say when the deadlines are for your applications. And of course, I would order your entire list by when the college application is due the soonest. And I would also recommend getting all of your rolling applications done. So as you can see, I put Pittsburgh and Penn State at the very top. So if you get your rolling applications done early, and that means you can find your results earlier and you don't have to stress a lot while you're in school and you're working on the other applications. I would also recommend putting a column called interviews. This is just to make sure that if a college does have an optional interview, you know which ones they are, and you can try doing the interview process, which would definitely boost your chances of getting to that college. And for the last two columns, I personally didn't do it, but I feel like most of you should do it. So basically, once you do apply to your college, they should have a link to your decision portal. They'll email that to you. So I would definitely recommend finding that decision portal link and just pasting it on here, so you know you can just come back to this list and easily access the different decision portals, and also put down your username and passwords if you forgot them, of course. I would also recommend making a different sheet, including all of your different schools and also the supplemental questions. Some of them, they have just one supplemental question. Some of them, they have like 8 supplemental questions, but you only need to pick like 2 of them. So I would recommend putting all of these down. And you can also look for similarities. Some colleges have the same exact college supplemental questions. And if they do, that means you can save a lot of your time and work because you can copy and paste stuff. So that's pretty much it.
I would like to add on. This is a very, very technical approach, and these approaches are definitely ones that you should definitely take into consideration. But just like generally, you know, how do you figure out what colleges you want to apply for? You do have to take into account a lot of factors, right? What matters most important to you? Does it matter that does location matter? Geographic location, right? Am I going to have to travel across the country to go to the school, or maybe out of the country? Is that something that you would want? You know, ask yourself those questions. What does the school offer for the major that you want to pursue, right? If I'm going to a school that has a lot of resources and has opportunities for connections in the medical fields, for example, you might want to consider that school highly on your list, and should probably apply to that school over some other schools who don't have those resources. Third, what is the environment on campus like? Just like what is living at that school? You're gonna have to live there for 4 years, most likely. So what is the environment in the school like? And what is the environment in the city like? And would you want to live there for 4 years? That's something you might also want to ask yourself. So, I mean, those are the 3 main questions you're going to have to figure out. And those 3 criteria will help you limit your list down to a good number of schools. And then you can consider some more specific factors like, another big factor is money, right? You might want to consider how much money you'll have to pay to go to that school. So these 4 factors, you definitely have to take in consideration, just like generally building your college list. And then, you know, definitely follow what Jason said about targets, reaches, and safeties, and use a very detailed approach in organizing your applications, especially if you're applying to several schools like Jonathan recommended.
Thank you. So let's circle back to when we were talking about early decision and early action. So could you guys explain what is the difference and importance of early decision and early action?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this. So basically, to put it simply, both early decision and early action are a form of applying to college early. Early being like getting your decisions anywhere between December, or sometimes like even earlier than that, or before April 1st or like March-ish. So in that range, like earlier than like you would get your regular decision college acceptances. But the main difference is that early decision is binding, which means if you get into that college, you will have to go by contract to that college, versus early action is non-binding. So for me personally, I applied to UPenn early decision. So I had to apply by November 1st, and I got my decision back in December 16th. And for a lot of colleges, like early decision helps with their yield rate. So it's not like a significant factor, but the truth of the reality of it is that like a lot of colleges want to make money, so they want to preserve the yield rate. So I think UPenn takes in 50% of their class early decision. So if you're really set on going to like one of these like more selective schools, maybe early decision might be the path where you want to choose. However, like I mentioned earlier, it is binding, so be incredibly cognizant of like if you want to go to this school. And also just like another big thing to consider, if you're looking for financial aid or any financial aid from a college or like significant amounts of financial aid, early decision is probably not the way to go for you, because there are a lot of like on colleges you can like calculate like the net price that you would have to pay and how much like financial aid they will have to give to you. But sometimes like that's not incredibly accurate, and you don't want to like, the last thing you want to do is to get into your dream school, but however realize that you can't pay for it and have to opt out of the binding contract, which not only is bad for you because you can opt out. However, there are consequences to opting out. Like you might destroy whatever relationship your school has with that college and make it harder for other kids from that school, from your school, to apply to that college. Additionally, if you opt out of the binding contract, that college can tell other colleges that you applied to that you broke the contract, and those other colleges may be disincentivized to not to admit you. So it will reduce your chances of getting to other colleges. And like with a FinAid, some people might know this, but you can negotiate financial aid. Say if I get like financial aid at one school, another school is offering me less financial aid, I can like bring up the school I'm getting more financial aid from to the other school to kind of like say, hey, like this school is giving me more. Could you guys potentially match that? And that might be a more attractive option for you, just to be able to like see your options and see how much money you can get from other colleges versus only going to just one college.
I do want to add something really quick. So some colleges, they might have an early action and they might have regular decision. So in that case, I would greatly recommend that you choose early action regular instead of applying regular decision. And this is because usually the admission chances of getting in is higher if you apply early action than early decision. And this is mainly because colleges, they see that you're eager to apply, you want to get into their schools, and you're willing to take the extra step of applying early, get your application done earlier than everyone else. So I would hugely recommend applying early action than just applying regular decision.
Yeah, and another benefit to applying early is that you may get a second chance. So the results for your early applications, no matter you're applying early decision or early action, is that you can get accepted, which is obviously great. That's the best decision that could happen. You could get rejected. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But there is a third option, and you could get deferred. And what that means, deferring your application means that the college takes your application and says, I'm not sure if I want to take you right now, but I also don't want to reject you completely. I want to give you another chance, and then we'll look over it again in the regular decision round. So they take your application and throw you in with the people who applied regular decision. That means your application gets 2 goes through the application process. The application or the admission committee reads your application twice, and it basically gives you another shot of getting into the school, which isn't the worst possible case when you apply early. So that is one benefit. So regular decision, I just want to touch on that briefly. So regular decision happens, so normally schools will have that deadline set in January, whereas early decision and early action deadlines are in November. So do keep in mind there is some sort of gap there. And so your regular decision results, they come out around April-ish. And so those results, you have 3 possible outcomes. You can get accepted, you can get rejected, and then instead of getting deferred, there's obviously no other application round. You can get waitlisted. And what that means, they put you on a wait list, and if students who were accepted to the school decide to choose other schools, or yeah, for any reason they don't choose to accept their yeah, okay, and they don't choose to accept the admission offer, they will colleges will end up resorting to their wait list to choosing people from their wait list. That said, colleges do take, they often take more students than their class allows because they account for students who don't accept their admission to the school. So, you know, it's not like a 1-for-1, but in most cases, if you're on the wait list, you do get a shot of getting off the wait list. So that's great. One other thing with deferring, so when you get deferred, you do have an option, or when you get deferred or waitlisted for that matter, you get an option to write a letter of continued interest, LOCI, and that is something that you can consider doing, especially if especially for deferred students, if between your early application round and the regular application round, your application has or you've done stuff that you can add to your application that would make your application more stand out, or just look better to the admissions committee. So you can definitely write a letter telling the admissions committee directly, you know, what you did, and basically it supplements your application. So that's one thing that you can do for deferring, and also helps your waitlist chances as well. One other thing, restrictive early action. So that's a special type of early action, which it sounds like early action, but it's basically early decision. So there are a few select schools out there who do restrictive early action, and basically, well, okay, no, sorry, it's not exactly early decision, but what it means is you get all the merits of early action, you apply early, and it's a non-binding agreement. However, when you apply restrictive early action, you can't apply to any other school early. Okay, you can't apply to any other school early. So that means that you can only submit an early application to that school. Whereas most schools with just regular early action, you can apply to multiple schools early action, even a school early decision. So that's the difference, and you can take that into account when you're applying early. And the schools that apply that have restrictive early action are schools like Princeton, Yale, I believe. It's only a few schools, and they're most of them are Ivy League. So most of the time, you would actually want to go to that school, even if you got an restrictive early action. So it's not that much of a turnoff.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. So let's move on to our last question before the Q&A round. So what were your final admission results, and how did you choose which college you finally chose to attend?
I'm going to take this question first. So out of the important colleges at first, I had UIUC and UVA, and that was like the easy part because I liked the computer science plus music program a lot better, and UIUC was ranked higher. It was ranked number 5 for computer science, and UVA was much lower. And I also liked the environment there better. Everyone was so much nicer. And then I got admitted into Tsinghua, and I was like, oh my God, there's no way I actually got in. It's like number 1 globally for computer science and engineering. And then that was like, I had a very terrible, they like gave me a very limited amount of time to like tell them whether I was going or not. So I was like on the ground crying, what do I do? Because at the time, I still like really preferred UIUC. And the program I got admitted for Tsinghua wasn't computer science, it was electrical engineering. And I'm much more of a programmer, of a coder. I don't really like to deal with like hands-on things and memorizing physical components and stuff like that. But still, it was like a really big deal because not that many, like this is a big honor, right? So eventually I took a few components into factor. First, it was that I didn't really want to do the major that I was accepted into. And then another part was I spoke with a lot of people. I read a lot of discussions. Like I would talk to everyone and their mom and their dad. And like it was really funny, but a lot of the times it'd be like every single family was a split. Like at my family, my dad wanted me to go, my mom was like nah. And then like my Guzheng teacher's family was like the opposite. I like everybody was split. But basically it ended up being like because if I get a degree at Tsinghua, the most sensible thing career-wise would be to work in China, and I wasn't really all about that. What work culture is it's too much competitiveness for me, and also the culture at Tsinghua itself would also be kind of hard for me as an international student who is like Chinese and not like white or something, because they often see us as haigui, like people who are like Chinese but they're from a different country, so they're just like using their different like nationality to as a benefit to come back to China and like reap the benefits, because we definitely didn't like, we don't have it as hard as Chinese students and whatnot. So I was afraid of that culture. And also it's just during my application process itself, I feel like Tsinghua, they're a little egotistical. When I had my interview with them and stuff, I thought I would definitely get rejected because the interviewers and like the admission staff were very rude to me. Because like during the interview itself, like once 15 minutes was up, I was like still speaking half sentence. They didn't let me finish 15 minutes. They were like, okay, stop. And then for the document verification, because like as an international university, they would also have to like verify that you actually are American and you're not just some random Chinese person trying to go to the university with like get in there easier. And like they wouldn't accept my Bank of America bank statements, official bank statements, because there wasn't a stamp or a signature on it. And they were rude to me and my parents. And that literally made me cry because they were just very rude. And then like in like stark comparison at UIUC, I spoke directly with the professors who would teach me. And they were very kind and they were very understanding. And it was just like, okay, I'm talking to like random admissions officers who are rude to me. And then I'm talking to the professors themselves. And so in the end, even though it was a really hard decision, I ended up going with UIUC.
Okay, I'll share next. I ended up I applied early decision to Brown University, and my application got deferred, and so it got moved to the regular decision pool. And I remember out of all the schools that I applied to 11 in total. I only got accepted to 3, which actually it's actually not bad. When you have more than one school to choose from, like that's a good problem to have. Okay, so like yeah, so I was actually kind of happy that I got more than one acceptance. So I got into the University of Virginia, Georgia Institute of Technology, and Brown University after the regular decision round. And going into my application process, Brown was my #1 school. So once I got into Brown, it really was a no-brainer for me. So the reason why I had Brown so high on my list was mainly like for the factors that I was saying before, right? I wanted to stay on the East Coast. I didn't really want to fly to my school. So Brown was within a day's drive away. So that means that works out. I really liked the campus. I did get to visit over spring break, this past spring break, and I really loved the campus and the city. So that was another thing. And I know that Brown has a fantastic computer science program. It's not only is it ranked really high, it has a lot of resources in that area in terms of both research and connections with their wide alumni network, and the connections that I can get in Boston, which is only 1 hour away. So those three factors really made it a solid choice for me. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you to all panelists. Now it's time for audience questions. So please send your questions to the chat and we will try our best to get as many as we can in the next 20 minutes. So we already have some questions sent in. First is, what are some computer science safety schools? And this question is directed towards those panelists who are CS majors.
I guess I'm the CS major in here. Like safety schools, I would just say like as safety as you can get would be ODU and VCU. Their programs are fine. A little higher than that would be Virginia Tech. I'm pretty sure Virginia Tech is like higher than UVA on the computer science rating, but like those are like your local safety schools for CS.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those state schools, as well as UVA. UVA has a phenomenal computer science program as well. I would throw out there George Mason has a good computer science program, especially if you're looking for like cybersecurity. George Mason is close to Washington, DC, so you have a lot of opportunities if you're going in the security direction. In terms of out-of-state schools, normally state schools are pretty, I want to say they're safeties, but they're targets that are pretty reachable. Their acceptance rates are anywhere from mid-20s to mid-30s, and for colleges that's a pretty reachable admission rate. So those state schools might be for CS. There's University of Maryland. There's like a location for that, but I don't know. But University of Maryland, you'll find it when you search it up. UIUC is a pretty good school, and it's pretty
Number
attainable
5.
as well. Yes, it's very attainable as well. And I don't know. Georgia Tech is a solid target school. It's a little bit tougher to get in their computer science program because the computer science program is also ranked very high, very competitive. I think that's all I can think off of my head. Jonathan, do you have any more?
Yeah, if you do have like colleges in mind already, again, Jason mentioned the Resource College Find, so you could go through that program and see which are like READ schools, which are target schools, and which are safety schools. And definitely you can go on online ranking websites. I know the biggest one is US News, but there's also something called CS rankings, and that's mainly just for computer science. So definitely check out those ranking online things and see like where your college is placed, and that'll tell you how difficult it is to get into that college and how good the CS program in there is.
Thank you. So our next question, what was the hardest thing you had to do in the application process?
I procrastinated a lot, and the worst thing I've had to do was I was writing my Tsinghua essay. It was due at 4 a.m. I finished at 3:45 a.m. and that was about it.
So I would say that, oh, I can go. So I would say that while writing your personal statement, you'll quickly realize that 650 words is actually not a lot. And so the hardest thing for me was narrowing down what I was going to write about in order to fit it in 650 words and also be able to convey the kind of theme that I wanted to convey. So for me, like I went from originally like talking about essentially an entire summer worth of experiences. I quickly figured out that was like way too broad. And instead I had to essentially focus in on one day during my previous summer, in which like I essentially had a story that I thought would be effective in conveying my theme rather than focusing on my entire summer.
I want to piggyback off of Rose and Alan. So I would say the personal statement is definitely one of the hardest processes in the college application process. And definitely make use of your summer, because once you get to your school year, you have school to deal with, you have homework, you have sports, you have clubs, and all of that stuff. So definitely try to get stuff like your personal statement done over the summer. And remember, your first draft might not be very good. You might have to do like multiple revisions, multiple drafts. I remember like writing 5 different personal statement essays until I finally got a good one that I actually liked. So definitely make use of your summer.
To kind of piggyback off Jonathan's point, yeah, I would say just like overall balancing. I know some people say a junior year might be like the hardest year in high school, but it's really first semester, senior year, because you're taking like harder level classes at the same time trying to like juggle the stress of writing college essays. And while I did try to start earlier, I'm not the fastest writer, and I did procrastinate a lot, so that just made it like a lot more stressful for me. And I was planning to actually write a lot of my essays over winter break, which is going to be really stressful. So just please start as early as possible.
Yeah, I also procrastinated until winter break, so I did not have a winter break. It was not fun. Write your essays now if you can.
Thank you for that piece of advice. The next question is there anyone here who has considered medical school?
Well, I'm probably going to go to dental school. It's not the same as med school, obviously. But so I think one thing that's really critical if you're considering anything in the medical field, be it, being a doctor or being like a nurse or something, you have to consider maintaining your GPA throughout your 4 years of undergrad. So I would say that when you're picking your college, consider like the difficulty of the courses that college offers, because you need to ensure that your GPA remains like somewhat respectable. You have to be holding like A's or at most a couple A minuses if you're really trying to get into med school or dental school. And so like for me, UVA was essentially my number one choice, because I knew going in that UVA would offer me courses that were challenging, but also not so challenging that I would be forced to suffer every day trying to hold straight A's, because I knew that I wanted to pursue something after college in which my college GPA would be super important to me.
Thank you. So our next question is, how did you choose who to ask for recommendations? And did you submit any optional recommendations?
So the like golden standard is like one humanities teacher, like an English teacher, because they're good at writing, and then one like science teacher to show that like you're good in both subjects. Always go with the teachers that like you the most, know that you're like, for instance, I pick the classes I do the best in, I speak the most in, so the teacher knows a little bit more about me. And then I also had one supplemental teacher recommendation, and that was my Spanish Honor Society advisor, because I spent a ton of time with her. Like, and even though it's not like technology related, she knows me as a person. Like, she's like my friend as a teacher, sort of, and so she knows a lot about me. And so that was my supplemental recommendation.
To answer the you can go ahead.
Okay. So one thing to keep in mind is that since you're doing this at the beginning of senior year, you're not going to be getting a recommendation from your senior teachers. So usually the teachers that you're getting recommendations from are from 11th grade. That way they already have a year of familiarity with you. So you want to make sure to make very, very good relationships with your teachers in 11th grade in order to have a decent selection to choose who to get a recommendation from.
Also, to answer the part about the optional recommendation letters, I actually did send one to some of my colleges, and that's from a professor I worked with years ago. But the goal of your college application is basically to let the college know like as much information possible about you. So telling them everything about your life. So if you do have optional recommendation letters, then definitely go ahead and send them. And if you don't, it's not a big deal.
Thank you. And our next question is a question on financial aid. Can you share some experiences with financial aid?
So for financial aid, there's the big one that I advise everyone to apply for, which is the FAFSA, FAFSA. That is the federal financial aid for students. So that's money coming from the federal government. And I believe like my panelists can help me with this because I'm not the most knowledgeable about this, but I think the federal government allots aid money to colleges, and so colleges have they disperse this aid money from the federal government, based on need. And so your FAFSA, your FAFSA, as we like to call it, it basically you put in all your financial information, and it gives you an estimated family contribution, your EFC score, and that's like the number based on the calculations and what you put in that your family it can contribute, and colleges will base on that need. The people who have like the lower EFC scores have more need, and they'll get more financial aid. That's from the federal government. Financial aid also comes from the school itself. They can give selective financial aid if the school has the money allotted in their budget. Normally, I would say private schools have more money to give from their own pockets, simply because they're private. And also, so there's this other financial aid thing called what was it called?
CSS.
CSS, yeah, CSS, and that's run by the College Board. A lot of schools require you to send in that application as well in order for your financial aid to be considered. That one requires a $16 fee for the first school that you send your application to, and a $9 fee for every additional school. The FAFSA is free. They want to make that clear. The FAFSA is free, which is why I recommend everyone to fill that out. The CSS, if you don't have to fill it out, don't pay the application fee. But some schools are stingy like that, and they force you to do it. And then, so that's two avenues of earning money. The third avenue is obviously outside scholarships. And so that, I would say, I would say apply to outside scholarships throughout your senior year. Definitely be on top of that. Realistically, if you know you're not getting financial aid from the federal government or the school based on your need, then you should be putting more effort into the outside scholarships, which are based more on merit, so that you have more chances of getting money that way. And that I personally was able to get $7,000 from outside scholarship, which helped me a lot with the financial factor of choosing schools. And I know my other panelists can talk about scholarships if you'd like to know more about that. Yeah.
So you might be wondering, like, how do I find these outside scholarships? Usually you can do like a quick Google search, like scholarships around me, local scholarships. They could be national too, but of course, national scholarships, they might be harder to get. But I know some good ones include the National Honor Society Scholarship. If you're a National Honor Society member, there's like Burger King Scholarship, Coca-Cola Scholarship, there's a bunch of them. And there's also a bunch of local scholarships. And usually these local scholarships, they are promoted by your own high schools. So definitely watch out for those.
Branching off of that, if you're in any honor societies at your school, make sure to check if they offer any scholarships, because I didn't even know about mine, but apparently Spanish Honor Society had one, so I applied and I got it. So definitely look into honor society scholarships.
Yeah, I would like to add on as well. So Jonathan showed his, college list before and how he kept track of all his college supplemental essays. I highly recommend you keep track of your scholarship essays as well. Those essay topics and questions often overlap and repeat, and they might even take questions that you answered before on your college application. So definitely keep track of your essays, keep those organized so that you can work smarter and not harder. And also another thing about outside scholarships is that, not all of them will be like, the headline ones, like, oh, this person gets 50K, wins a 50K scholarship, or wins a 75K or 20K scholarship. Like scholarships don't come like that to everyone. Most people will only get like scholarships 1K, 500, or like, 2K at sometimes, if you get lucky. So it's a process. You really have to like, if you get a few hundred, that's great, and like just like keep piling up the money. Don't be discouraged by like, oh, this is only a few $100s, I might not take it. But once the money adds up, it really makes a difference.
Just want to know, this is the time of your life where you will be getting the most free money. So even if it's not 50K, take what you can.
Great, thank you so much for that. So moving on to our next question. This one's a bit of a long one. So other than essays and statements, what are some things that I can do to prep for the applications? I want to apply for a major in engineering. So I was wondering if there are any extracurricular activities that I could do.
Yeah, I can take this. So while I did apply as a systems engineer, I didn't really focus around my application on being that. I just focused around engineering in general. So for engineering, there are various clubs you can do. A big one is robotics. I was a member of my school's first tech challenge team. And I'm not sure in the area, there are several in the area. There's FTC, there's First Robotics, and there's some other robotics on teams. And if you're interested, I would suggest looking into that. Additionally, for engineering, you can partake in like personally driven projects. So at my school, I was a part of like an engineering program where it's centered around like us creating our own projects. And so just taking initiative to kind of like use skills, maybe like CAD or Arduino, and kind of like making something that has a community impact is I think a good way to kind of bolster your kind of extracurricular involvement in your application as a whole.
Adding on to that, I think any competitions, if you can like compete in like an engineering, like a robotics competition and win an award, that goes big on your application. And that goes to like any major really. And also, I don't know if any of our schools do this, but like Olympiads, math and science Olympiads are really big. I know like for MIT, a lot of their students have Olympia or have won awards in Olympiad. So if you can do that, do it.
Also, if your school doesn't offer a club in First Robotics or anything, take a shot at founding it, creating it. The act of creating a club around that would already be something really good for your resume. And if you end up actually winning an award in the competition, it's even better. So I think that colleges, especially like things that are like activities that not only like show your own skill, but also improve the community as a whole. And founding a club at your school is definitely one of those.
Also, I do want to say, if you are participating in a club, try your best to get a leadership position within that club. Something like president or vice president of a club sounds much better than member of a certain club. And also, if you're a junior right now and you're going to senior year and you don't have a bunch of extracurricular activities, it's definitely not too late to do some. I know like Michael and I, we founded computer science club at our school. So we were like co-presidents and co-founders. And I think that also helped our application a lot.
Yeah, and I do want to just talk about extracurriculars in general. So even if you're not sure about your major, doing any sort of extracurriculars that show an extended period of time commitment, right? If you did a certain extracurricular for, let's say, 4 years, or maybe even like from middle school through high school, like 6 years or something like that. That type of time commitment shows one, dedication, perseverance, and it gives you a lot of experiences, just the time that you spent for you to write your college essays about them. You know, colleges not only want to see your academic passions, but they also want to see you just being passionate about things in general, like your hobbies and your personal interests. They want to see you as a complete person. They want to see your personality in your essays. They want to see how you think and what you will bring to their college community. And that all stems from your extracurricular experiences and what you do on a daily basis, you know? So the more you do, the more you have to write about. And that's just what the main piece of advice I give to a lot of people is just like, just keep doing things. And the more you do, the more you can write about.
Thank you. So the time is, oh, sorry, did someone have something to say?
Oh, also, I don't know if some of you might be interested in this, but it's like this might seem like you're unable to do it, but you can do things like research with other professors, or even research independently. I know a lot of the schools like PA or OL will actually like have assignments, so where you all have to like write a research paper. There's no reason why if you do a little bit of research online, you can find ways to like get that research to publish stage, or if you work with the professor, you can work with them to get that research published. And that's another thing that looks very, very good on your resume. It's shows that you're able to do professional level research already at such a young age.
Yeah, senior projects.
Yes.
Those are put a lot of time into them. Well, if you put a lot of time into them, that is a very good thing you can talk about in your college applications.
Great, thank you. So the time is currently 9 p.m. Those who are unable to stay can leave, and thank you for attending. But panelists, if you are able to stay, please stay. If you have more questions, we will try to get those answered in the next 10 minutes. So our first question is, what tips do you have for choosing a specific topic or anecdote to center your personal statement around?
Oh, I mean, I said this before, but just uniqueness. I know the Common App, they typically always have this one question where it's like, oh, something special about you, or like, is there like just you pick your own topic. So I think for the Common App, which is like the most general one and like goes to all colleges, write about something you like and that something is special about you that not many other people can replicate.
I would like to warn against choosing the topic that says write about anything you want. Colleges do like some sort of direction in what you're talking about. So do try to, like, Common App gives you a lot of different essay topics. Definitely try to choose one of the top 6. They cover a lot. Yeah. So the one that I chose, I chose the first one, which talked about like what is one thing about your background or like culture or identity that you know, you can't or you have to write about in your application or something like that, something along those lines. And I wrote about, you know, my experiences growing up as a Chinese American and interacting with the Chinese community. I took an approach that wasn't exactly one anecdote. I talked about just growing up in the Chinese American community, interacting with the Chinese language and learning about Chinese culture and how that impacted me as a person. And it was really like many small pieces, small experiences, and put that into one essay. I found that worked for me. I know like I would say there's no like set steps that you can follow to write like a perfect Common App essay. It's really like the direction that you want to take, your unique approach to writing this essay. So don't be discouraged by saying, oh yeah, some other people are doing this and they're being really successful. You can try their way, but ultimately how you write and the way you approach this essay is your unique way of writing it. And I think even if you take what a lot of people have told me, the topic that I wrote my essay about was cliche and something that everyone talks about, especially if you're a Chinese American child growing up. And what I basically that and reflecting on their feedback, what I ended up thinking was, you know, yes, a lot of people write about this topic. That's like not something that I can avoid, but I feel like my perspective, my experiences, and the way I wrote about this topic is unique to me, and that's good enough for me. So I felt like what I wrote really reflected who I am as a person, and that's really what you want in your personal statement, right? You want to put as much as your personality, because it is the essay with the most, you know, it's the highest word limit, most likely, that you'll have to write. So it is the essay where you can put more of yourself, show the admissions committee more of who you are in that essay. So you definitely want to take advantage of that.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that real quick. Yeah, it's definitely important to have like your own personal voice and like your own distinct way of writing. But about writing about your experience as a Chinese American, a lot of my upperclassmen and people who I got advice from told me it's best to stay away from like centering around the fact that you're Chinese, because there may be some effects of discrimination and like, you know, they have to have a certain percentage of this type of student. So it's best to stay away from that, but there's definitely ways like how Michael did it that you can make it work. For instance, like one big thing that comes to mind is like if you've made like some really big contribution to your Chinese American community, like it could always work. Just be very careful with those topics.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So what are your tips for high schoolers preparing for college applications?
I guess I kind of want to piggyback off something Michael said a couple questions ago, but yeah, you got to have the grades, or at least like the grades good enough to get into like the colleges you want to get into. But you also need like the extracurriculars, and just like if you don't know like what like extracurriculars are beneficial for you to kind of like help with college, just like Michael said earlier, like do things that you can write about. So like not just like just participation in clubs, but like going like further in your involvement in clubs and like driving for impact and taking initiative to like kind of revolutionize the way some of these clubs are operated, and just like other stuff like that. And that like colleges will eat that up, I'm telling you right now. Because like not everybody has like just like you don't need to be a quote unquote like president of a club. Like you don't need to be a designated leader, but like just doing things that show that you have leadership is good enough for colleges. And plus, like, if you have things that you can write about, you can also have things that you can talk about too in your interviews, and that will sound really good. Like, if you do a lot of things and just have a lot of experiences in general, you will fail a lot, and that sucks. But you might have a baller quite like answer to like, hey, like, what's a time, like, tell me about a time that you failed, or like, tell me about a time you overcame a challenge. And you I'm not going to like say something, oh, I was like writing late at night, 10 p.m. for a paper. No, you have something that's like unique to you and shows like your desire to like your passion, desire to kind of impact the community, hypothetically. So yeah.
One thing to add on to that, a very small minor detail, like aside from good grades, colleges also look at the difficulty of your courses to determine whether you will be able to handle their college coursework. So I know all you guys are really smart. This probably won't like even matter to you, but like make sure to take your APs, IBs if you're in the program, and like honors classes. Just take advanced classes and do well in them, and then the colleges will be like, okay, yeah, you can handle it. So just a minor thing.
I would also like to add that colleges do like to see you show commitment towards something. So I would say that when pursuing your extracurriculars, make sure you have 1 or 2 things that you've put a significant amount of time into. That way colleges can see that you are like able to commit your time and your dedication towards pursuing a goal of yours, which in turn shows them that at their college, like you will be able to succeed because you have the skills necessary in order to essentially pursue something over several years.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question is kind of a two-parted question. Where can you find resources to work with professors for research papers? Also, did you receive any help writing personal statements?
I mean, I can't really answer the part about the college professors, but I did receive help writing a lot of my essays. I talked to my friend who goes to MIT, and then my half sister who went to Berkeley and Rice University. So they would, aside from just like grammatical errors, they would also look at the topic and help me think of like, oh, maybe don't do this topic. This topic might be a better fit, might like showcase your skills better, and just help me. A big part of it was also helping me fit everything into the word count and still sound smart. But definitely, if you have friends who went to good schools and know what they're doing in the college application process, talk to them.
Oh, yes. To kind of go off of what Rose said, not only can you ask friends, you can also ask teachers and other adults to read over your essays. So even the teachers who helped you write recommendations, you can just reach out to them, especially the English teachers. They definitely, most of them have experience reading over college essays and know what colleges like and stuff. So send it to them, and they'll give you honest feedback, and take that and then reflect on it and improve your essay. Yeah.
So about the doing the research, so if you're doing it independently, you if you go online and you search for like journals that let high schoolers publish on them, there are a good number. You can find these lists pretty easily by just searching for like journals where high schoolers can publish scientific research. If you want to do research with a professor, there are lots of professors at ODU that would really be interested if you just send them an email saying that you're interested in like take a look at what they do in their lab, see if you like it, and then if you really like what they're doing, you can send them an email. If you send it to enough professors, a couple of them will pick up, and you can go through there, and then you'll end up being able to work in their lab, and then get your name on one of the research papers.
Yes, not just ODU. We have lots of higher education institutions in the area. Tidewater Community College, Regent University. I just had one in my Eastern Virginia Medical School. If you want to reach out into the medical field, there's so many resources just in the area. You'd be surprised how many opportunities there are out there for research. Yeah.
And kind of circling back to like the question about essay help. So my advice to that is that get just a couple people that you trust to kind of look at your essays. Don't try to get as many people as possible. Like your uncle's brother's dog does not need an opinion on your essay. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen per se. Because like having a lot of people having like everybody's gonna have a different opinion, and having those contrasting opinions might ruin the overall voice of your essay as a whole. Just get like people you trust, just a couple, to just like really look at the essay.
Yeah, make sure they give you honest advice.
Yeah.
We don't want like honest advice. Only honest advice is really going to be valuable advice for your college essays. So ask people who will be honest with you.
Thank you so much. So that will conclude the end of our college Q&A for today.